The pictures I have are the only known interurban pictures, I think, that about the Stark Electric Railroad. See how we put the concrete on top of the ties with the ballast under the ties and the steel along each side are formed. And after we had our paving down, then the city put their paving up to it. The city has to pay for all that paving now. They don't have anybody to help them out with the expense. But when we were in business, why, we carried a considerable paving burden. Notice the car's about 1930. That's the curve at Liberty and Summit. You trainmen can well remember that. You used to have to go around there with considerable care while they were doing that paving work. Charlie Thomas and Ralph Miller and this is a sub at Maximo, is it? No. Yeah, Maximo. That's a 23 kV line that's the first one brought up to the lines from the power plant after the new generator, a new transformer substation was installed. That's one of our passes sightings that shows the Nashad block signal system that we had. One of the first railroads to use automatic braking. Then we replaced all the old wooden bridges with concrete and steel bridges, and that reduced our maintenance considerable and made our track better. Level and stand at full speed of the car, where before we couldn't go full speed over those wooden bridges. There's the boys in action, grinding a joint. You remember where you are in a picture, because afterwards, please come around here and tell me what picture you're in, and so I can get the thing logged up, and then we're going to make tape recording on it. As Carl Ayers is coming down, I could always tell Carl I didn't have to look the way he walked. That's Floyd, isn't it?
I believe. Yeah. That ain't Floyd.
I'll take your ride on the car in a minute. It didn't jiggle quite as much as it shows in the picture, but to hold it steady, well, it was difficult in the car. So we took that to show the people that we had the cleanest interurban system in the United States. That's one of the scenes along the right-of-way out here at I think it's the airport, the State Road, I'm not sure. Used to be that way.
Going up the hill, Wall Street. Yeah, that's see that all up there? Yeah. Wall Street, and then someplace.
You notice our passengers were always relaxed. They were looking at the camera. They didn't know what was going on.
Guess who that
How do
is?
you like that?
Guess who that is? I like it.
And notice the track is straight and level. Now, one of the things that I want you to notice particularly is this is one of the first weed killing apparatuses. We couldn't buy it, so we designed it and built it right here. And we decided with the grass between the ties, the grass holds the moisture in the roots. And the moisture in the roots rots out the ties, rots out the wood. And it's very hard to hold the root bed dry, even with proper drainage, when there's weeds and grass growing up. So we built this thing down over here at the shop, and the whole front end has a valve on each spray. And if you look closely, when this thing comes towards you down the track, you can see that the spray has two jets between the rails that comes out in a conical shape and sprays the track even under the rail. And then there are two jets on the outside of the rails that sprays, and they also overlap underneath the rail, so that we had a complete coverage from side to side. And this is the worst and the normal railway track with the weeds and grass. After that, it was clean, level, and we never had any more weeding and grading, and we cut down our road ballasting operation about 50%. Now here comes the weed sprayer, and when you notice the front end, you can see the valves at the top for the men operating it, and they control the spray, and notice how the spray crosses, and the two cones between the rails, and the two cones on each side outside of the rails, covers the ground so completely that it actually sprays the weeds under the rail. See the spray? And when they loaded the tank at the fire barns, we loaded enough drums on the back of the flat car that we could fill it on the other side of Sebring and Dwight, so that we could hold it with enough material to get the sail out without a return trip. There's your control lever on the front of our locomotive. We got a lot of kidding when we put this in the Railway Journal because we had a hand-operated winch and we didn't have an electric motor on it. One thing about it in our company, everybody worked. Another thing that our company did was to institute and put into effect a program where we put as many streams that ran across under the rails through culverts. And we didn't use ordinary culvert that you get those times. We used reinforced concrete and put them down low enough so that if we did the job once, it was done for all time. And our stack was over 200 feet high. That's Hubbard, the electrician at the firehouse, and Hawk incidentally sent his best regards to everybody here the last time I saw him down in Utica, where he's living in retirement, which is halfway between Newark and Mount Vernon. His daughter is physical education director at the American University in Washington, D.C. Yeah. Now this is when we got this. We had open delta connection on each one of the three-phase systems, and then we finally scrambled enough money together to get the transformers to close up the deltas, and Bauman can tell you more about that than anybody here does. I didn't have good floodlights those days like we have now, so my pictures inside were not too successful. Remember we had a steam crane in the back that lifted the coal and dumped them into the hopper before we got the crushed coal operation into effect. That was a good husky crew, I'll tell you. I have a story to tell you about the building of the firehouse when we put the new turbine in. It'll take about 2 minutes after the end of this picture. It's Lake Park. That's fed by artesian well. And I I tell you that quite a few people in town one time, a council started to raise Cain about us using water from the clean water and how we would contaminate it. And they were very much amazed to learn that Lake Park was fed by artesian wells. We owned all of the property, and the water that was used was filtered and cleaned and treated and then put into the Mahoning River. And it was cleaner, if it was possible to make it that way, than when it went into the cooling water condensers to start with. But the water was only used for cooling. That's Coke Furniture when they first went out, and they took power from us too. We were in competition with the higher public service at that time, you know. We bought a buck for this customer, and that's quite different than it does today. We went into the ice business to equalize our revenue. So we had a high revenue in the summer. We built this place up on the Rock Hill. That's where we took the multiple cluster of poles down and put a steel tower up and cleaned up that corner. You never saw such a rat's nest of poles and braces and wires in all your life before that was put up there.
I remember that.
That's a 23,000 volt line. It was a double line when it was finished from here to Canton. It had 2 rotary substations on the way over. And Shore and Shallow Ice Company, which we bought in Canton at that time. It's one of the ice service systems. It was cloudy and rainy that day, and the pictures weren't too hot. That's a new substation we put in down here to feed Morgan Engineering and Lines Machine, Lines Structural, and that group. Again, we put in the steel tower and took down 10 poles in this particular case. I'd like to tell you this one thing about the power plant so that some of your ladies can understand. The men know all about this, but when we got down to the installation of a new turbine, that was one of the internationally famous and little known about hijacking that was done when we lost our turbine that we bought from Ford Company in Windsor, Ontario to bring here. That's another story in itself, and I'll tell you the rest of it after I'm gone. But anyway, I have it recorded as a document, so it can be used by the proper people if I think it's necessary after I'm gone. But the turbine was built on a foundation to take a 15,000 kilowatt generator. And when we got to the installation of the generator, we found that underneath the bottom of the excavation where the concrete pad was supposed to be, there was quicksand. So that we had a problem on our hands of installing this weight of the condensers and the turbine and the auxiliary equipment on a concrete foundation. And there's only 4 feet of clay between the bottom of the foundation and the quicksand.